Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 150 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we preview the return to action in both the EHL and the EHLP. Kicking things off in the weekly rundown, we recap what was discussed over the course of the holiday break and set the table for all the division races down the final stretch. Further along inside the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge, we give out our new picks to kick off the new year. Last but not least, we each pick out a matchup to watch as each division gets back to work. This week's episode is brought to you by HockeyTech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. And with that, let's bring in the E-Crew. Guys, winter break is over. Are we all well rested and ready to go?
Recharged and ready, Commish. Recharged and ready.
Same. Ready to go. Let's go. Let's get back to work, boys.
Define well rested.
For me, Anthony, that's at least like maxing out at like 7 hours of sleep per night.
Okay.
So yes, like that's to me well rested. But
everyone's got a voice. No one's scratchy. Everyone sounds great. Right?
Not yet.
Wait till the 14th, 15th, 16th.
Right back in it. We just go head first into things here in the slate.
Right. Nice little 14-game EHL slate. Nice little 11-game EHLP slate before we get to the showcase.
Shake the rust off.
Jeff got the math going already. So Jeff, 11 plus 14.
Yeah, 25.
Okay, perfect. We'll jump into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
It does, though, feel like forever since we had a game.
Yeah, doesn't Newington feel like last year? Oh, it was. Hey, there's your first dad joke of the day.
And Jake laughs off air.
Yeah.
And somewhere Jake is all over it.
Somewhere Jake is regretting that he couldn't make this podcast now.
Yep.
Did I tell you guys that he texted me Merry Commish, like Christmas, but he put Commish instead of Chris at the beginning?
Yep, sounds about right. That's a Jake we know and love.
I was like, that was pretty good. I never really would have ever thought to do that, but that was pretty good.
Jake's just built different.
That's a perfect word for it. So we obviously have ripped through every one of these divisions here throughout the winter break, but I think it's worth going back to them and kind of highlighting what's to come here in the second half. And we're going to go in a Jeff order and just bounce around the footprint. So we'll start central, right?
Pinball City.
And I think what's like what I'm so curious of is like, obviously everyone makes their schedules differently. So in a perfect world with my symmetry, everyone would be at like 28 games right now. And we would all know that they have 18 games left, but that's obviously not the case. But when you look at the Central first, like the Chiefs have played the fewest number of games, while the Apple Corps have technically played the most.
Mm-hmm.
When all things shake out in this division, do you guys feel like seeds 2 through 5 are, at this moment, currently just thinking about no matter what, staying 3 or higher to avoid the play-in game?
So basically, do we think that it's going to stay the way it looks right now?
Like the way that it looks right now, and that like their focus isn't we got to catch the Railers, but rather
realistically, no.
Just
I think that 2 versus 3 battle is going to be like. I think the Railers I think they found their game, and I think that if you maybe asked Coach Bertoni about the break coming up, was it a good thing for them, a bad thing for them? I think they were really starting to get to their game. Then they had to go on the holiday break. But if they can come back and continue to pick that up, they've got a 10-point gap now on the Chiefs, who have really stumbled after jumping out of the gate. And I don't know. I can't see the Railers quite surrendering that number 1 seed away now with that 10-point cushion they've developed. So I think it'll come down to those those 4 other teams, I think the seeding is going to change drastically in that division between 2 and 5 because they're all so close together and they're all pretty similar into how they play.
Yeah,
Actually,
I would agree, Tyler.
One interesting thing about the Central Division 2, teams 3 through 5, HC, Rhode Island, New York Capricorn, Connecticut Rough Riders, those are the only 3 teams in the EHL so far that have given up 100 goals or more. So I think that whatever team can tighten up defensively, maybe get some good goaltending down the stretch, I think they'll have a real shot at, maybe either catching the Chiefs or just holding on to that 3 seed.
I was going to say, I think that is the Chiefs. Like we talked about Easterwood and Yost, they got a nice combo there, but they have to find goal scoring. And like you just said, Anthony, those teams can score a lot better than the Chiefs can. Not a lot better, actually. Rough Riders, probably the better of the bunch there as far as scores are concerned, but there's 69 goals. But Apple Core, much like the Chiefs, kind of struggled to score, but also they've given up 100 goals, as you just said, hitting the century mark. But yeah, kind of a crapshoot there. But as we've said, a lot of time for teams to make additions, and we'll see who makes the first additions in the second half.
And while we're on the Central, we'll note that we're recording this on the 4th, dropping it on the 5th. By the time this comes out on Spotify and everything, the tournament that the Railers are hosting with all the Canadian teams coming down will have started. That's taking place the next 3 days, the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and includes 3 teams from the Central, and the Chiefs, the Railers, and Rhode Island, as well as the Warriors, the Rangers, the Avalanche, the Spartans, a bunch of our teams facing off against a bunch of Canadian prep teams. So I'm going to go check it out because, frankly, I don't really know what to expect. But whenever you play...
we haven't really seen any of those Canadian teams. It's like Kirkland Lake,
ever,
like,
right?
Like the Kirkland Lake Miners we had years ago at one of the Connecticut at the Newington Showcase. So
and you just never know how you're gonna match. It's the same as our all-star games against the college teams, right? Like, you never know how you're gonna truly match up until you actually drop the puck. So I'm curious to see. So I'm gonna go out and see for myself. I'll pay our Railers friends a visit. But that's the Central. I said we're gonna bounce all around, so we'll go to the East next. And
over to the EHLP we go.
I can't go that crazy, Jeff.
Oh, no, okay.
But I think when you compare the game counts in the Central, where you had one team at 26, 2 at 28, 1 at 27, 1 at 29, they're kind of all in the same bunch there. The East is a lot different because you have the Seahawks out there who have played 32, while the Wizards have played just 25, Express just 26, Rangers 27, Valley 28. So, like, I know this podcast has been very high on the Seahawks all year long, but is it almost nerve-wracking if you're them to be where you are and know that, like, people around you are going to be moving when you can't really do anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill's going to always say, like, focus on yourself, right? He's a guy that's he's not really worried about other teams. He's going to be worried about the team that's in his locker room. And I think preach to those guys, just go out there and do what we did in the first half. Maybe clean up some things. Obviously, every team can do better than they always have things that they can work on. Nobody's perfect. But I mean, like, if you're the Wizards, you're 8 points behind the Seahawks, right? With those 7 games. So you look at it, if you're Corey Felitti, quick math, 7 games in hand, total of 14 possible points. So you try to do some math in the locker room maybe and try to add up, hey guys, we need these 2 points today, and just kind of keep multiplying. But I think every team's going to kind of go at it one game at a time and not really look at, like, the long stretch of things. But yeah, it's something to look at for sure.
And Jeff, when you bring up the games in hand, I feel like we always mention that they're only as good as you use them. There's no guarantee. And so if I'm the Seahawks, I just keep it going. I don't really worry much about the other teams behind me. I mean, you look at the Express, who have 26 games played. They're just 2 points back of the Seahawks, or rather just 1 point back of the Seahawks right now. But yeah, you can't worry about the teams that are behind you. I think if you're the Seahawks, you can look at things. This is certainly a different looking Seahawks team than years past. They have 95 goals this year. I don't know if they hit or when they hit 95 last year. This was a team that struggled last year in putting pucks in the net and keeping them out. They've scored 95. They've allowed 99. I mean, they're playing good hockey. they're playing better hockey, and I think that the additions that they've made, it's going to be interesting to see how they fare in that second half. The Andrelovits and Kate Herrera's, they've stepped in and they've given this team players that they haven't had in years past. It's made a
And now they
difference.
just got Rolf back too, so maybe they rest Andrelovich a little bit, get Rolf some more. That was a guy they really believed in, so we'll see if maybe he gets some more starts in the second half, turns into another 1A, 1B, like we've seen with a lot of these teams.
Those four seeds in the East. I mean, the Wizards kind of trailing there with 25 points, but they've been able to hang around at 500 if they can find a way in the second half to string some wins together and try and get some separation and pick up some ground perhaps on the Express, who they're only trailing by 7 points. Like, you never know. I mean, we saw what the Wolves did last year, and I'm kind of curious to see who is going to be the Wolves of this year. Who's going to just go on an absolute run in the second half and turn their season around? And the Wizards kind of look like that team. They're right at 500, and I don't think anyone expected the Wolves to do what they did last second half. So maybe the Wizards have something in them, and it all starts with just getting a few wins.
For
And
sure.
if history repeats itself, the Wizards a big second half team. Neil, Anthony, you know this. Tyler, you know a little bit from the few years you've been here, but they've always been big in the second half. And then, like, real quickly, the Warriors, right? We've talked about them a lot this year. All their wins are against good teams. So if teams still look at going to Haverhill and they're like, oh, we're playing the Warriors today. You take them for granted, then they might punch you in the mouth and they might keep playing spoiler and they might start moving up the East Division standings.
Yeah, for sure. For those that are wondering, the Seahawks scored 127 goals last year. So over the final 14 games of this season, if this year's current team can score over two per game, you know, right?
I had no trouble. I mean, teams like
Kate Herrera scored 4 himself in one game, right? So let's just assume that
that was his first game in the EHL.
They're probably going to score more than that. So
you got a guy named Scott McManus too. That helps.
For sure.
They've got some great young players. No, this is. I've been in this league now this is my second year, and like the difference between the Seahawks of last year and this year, it's very noticeable. And hopefully they use those, or they don't let those games in hand quite get to their head, and they just keep playing the style of hockey they've been playing.
For sure. Over to the north, where we have two teams of 27, the Wolves who have 30, and the Lumberjacks that have 26. This was the one division where all 4 teams were selected by our crew to go to the finals. Only division that had all 4 teams selected. But I paused for a second because, as I mentioned before, we are recording this on January 4th. If we don't do this on the podcast, we will never hear the end of it. Happy birthday to Coach Sorella. His birthday was yesterday, January 3rd. We're not going to sing.
I'm a belated text now before I get in trouble.
Yeah, we're not going to sing the whole birthday melody, but we'll just acknowledge that it was his birthday. He'd like us to say happy birthday to the greatest coach in the league. We probably won't go that far. He's one of the best, right? But
one coach of the year. He's pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Big C.
Yeah, we got to at least acknowledge that. Now we can move on back to the division talk. As I mentioned,
pleasantries over.
Every one of these teams was selected. I mean, what can we say about this division that we haven't already said, though, at this point, right?
Spartans Avs Tuesday the 10th, first time this year. Let's see what that has to give us.
Anthony kind of brought it up when we were talking about the Central, right? How there are 3 teams with 100 goals against, right? Well, you look at the North and it flips right around. You've got 3 teams with 100 goals for. The Wolves have 111, the Avalanche 106, and the Lumberjacks have 103. Spartans with 94. So I guess they're trailing in the rear just a bit. But like, you just look at all 4 of those teams, they score at an incredible rate, and then they don't give up a ton either. It's really hard to see like who's going to pull away from who, because even though the Avalanche have a 4-point cushion over the Spartans, and the Wolves have kind of fallen just a little bit, they kind of stumbled going into the break. The Lumberjacks have seemed like they just can't get out of like the 4th seed, despite them having a solid record of 18-8-0. They're somehow last in that division. Like, it's just goes to show you how just tight and competitive it is and has been all year in the North. You've got a team with 36 points in last place. If they were in any of the other divisions except for the South, they'd be in first, the Lumberjacks. So,
And a team that I think the break came at a perfect time for, and a person in general, Trevor Jewell, 3 straight games before the break. He got 5 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals. They're one of those teams that needs to, they've had some, Trevor Jewell's goals against now over 3. His save percentage is creeping towards below 900. So they got to clean that up if they want to stay in the thick of it. And
Gotta
that
find
break
a
came at
number
a good
2.
time.
Gotta
Right?
find a number 2 in Laconia.
Yeah.
They have to.
Cam Reardon was
Because
pretty
I
good.
think I
saw
saw
him.
during that Newington showcase, I had a few of their games, and
Mhm.
you could tell. I
Joel's
think
tired.
I agree, Jeff. I
Big
think they've got to
workload.
find someone else to split that workload. They tried a few of younger options, and it didn't really pan out for them, unfortunately. But I think if they want to really make sure he's fresh and ready to go in the second half, they've got to find someone to take a few starts away and give him some time off, because they leaned on him heavy, and he was a
Mhm.
big reason why they got off to that tremendous start at the beginning of the season when he
Mhm.
was posting shutouts and had his numbers looking like they did earlier.
Yeah, and I think they found it. That kid Cam Reardon that they just brought in, he was a guy that has been in the Wolves system in the youth area, came over from the Monarchs over in the USPHL. And he played well. I called one of his games. He got a win. So I think he's a guy that will hopefully be able to spare Trevor Jewell a little bit, help out Coach Kuhns and get their starters some rest down the
Because we
stretch.
know they can
but
score.
yeah,
That's no
oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it.
Mhm.
They can certainly put the puck in the net. Heath Mensch been such a fun player to watch this year. I don't get to see the Wolves unless it's at a showcase, so I've been
Yeah.
lucky to get a few of their games, and he is a fun player to watch. And they've got an excellent power play all
Yep.
throughout. They're a very deep team. It's going to come down to getting back on that defensive structure that they had at the beginning, and Trevor Jewell just catching a breath and finding his game again. He's too good of a goalie to keep this kind of run of play going. He's
100%
committed
agree.
already, so I
They were
do
also
expect him
banged
to
up
bounce
too.
back.
They weren't healthy at all at that Newington showcase. I know Budina was sick. He was. I know you guys know I love doing accents. I forget where Matthias is from. He's from somewhere in Europe, but
He's
he
Czech,
walked through the
isn't it?
doors. Is he Czech? I would say because he walked in with salty. He's like, "Hey, coach, first food I've eaten in days." And we're like, "Yeah, Budina's been throwing up for the last few days." So I mean, they were a combination of guys were sick and guys were banged up. They lost a lot of guys, but credit to them, they still were able to pull out some wins. They're still right in the thick of it in the north, and like we said,
Absolutely.
Spartans Avalanche have to see each other 4 times in the second half, starting Tuesday the 10th.
Listen to this Lumberjacks January schedule I just pulled up. 10 games, right? They start off with the Express, who have won 5 straight, then Wizards, then 87s, then Wizards, then Applecore, then Spartans twice, then Railers, then Avalanche twice. Welcome
And
back.
and something I've noticed too, they haven't even played the Express or Wizards yet this year. I was looking
Oh
at that
my
when I was
God.
doing some prep.
Hang
Talk
on.
about teams you don't even know.
Has the North Division even played any games against each other? Because we talk about and I get messages from Mr. Dad of 100-point defenseman Declan House about them having the highest combined win percentage. But it's like, at least I know what the South Division, which we'll get to in a little bit, they actually play each other. I feel like the North Division just plays against the East, Central, the South, and the Showcase.
Right.
It's about time. You read that Lumberjack schedule. It's about damn time they're going to play teams like the Spartans and the Avalanche. So I think now we'll actually get to see which North teams are really geared for a playoff run.
You hear that, North Division? Anthony is calling you out for your scheduling. He's not calling out the scheduler because he knows I didn't make that part of the schedule. He's calling you out because you made that part of the schedule.
He already has one best friend in the North.
Nothing against the North Division teams. It's just like an observation. I just feel like
I think
they haven't played too many games within their division.
To what Anthony's saying, though, because I do think that at some point there's only 4 teams in that division, but only one is going to come out of it, and at some point one of them is going to stumble, and it's only a matter of time. Like, we kind of saw the Wolves trip up a little bit, but they're still obviously very much in the thick of things, and 38 points, 18 wins. But who's going to be the first North Division team to really hit a skid, to really all of a sudden go through a rough patch? It's going to be interesting because they're all playing so good right now for the most part. But once that rubber meets the road, who's going to rise above the adversity and who's gonna fall?
And because they're all playing each other, it has to happen, right? I mean,
right, exactly.
Team's got to win, a team's got to lose. We're not doing ties, folks. This is not soccer.
We go with the North?
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's all we can just not say.
We're all fired up and rested, you can tell.
So I want to go to the South next, but we're going to do like a big market like tease right now. Because as I mentioned, we are dropping this on Thursday with a big story coming Friday. Not with a podcast, but with a big story coming Friday. There is a sale of one of our franchises, which is pretty common knowledge. The Ducks have been sold. They are relocating, but I'm not going to tell the people what the new name is going to be or what they're going to look like. We're going to give you guys the chance to just give a natural reaction, right? Don't say anything that you see. Just give an ooh and ah.
Okay.
Or how you feel. Ready?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. It's too quiet.
Okay.
All right. Interesting. Okay. All right.
Is it one of those things where like I don't love it, I like it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
like
The
They're pretty
shoulder
fresh.
patch is the same.
Yeah.
See the
oh yeah, see quack hanging around.
Yeah, they want to continue on with that part of the brand because they've built that over the last few years.
Really interesting. All right.
And obviously, and they were a first place team for a while this year. I mean, they've done a great job of what they've done in just 3 years, right? But
Yeah.
right.
again, we're not announcing
Keeping some same colors, but
you
mixing
can all
some in.
see what the new name is, right?
Yep.
Right there. Right.
Mhm.
There's your new name.
Mhm.
So this is coming out on Friday, though.
And we will not say a peep.
So for those that are listening, you'll get to see it Friday. But back to the South now. In terms of game count, we compare everyone to each other. You got 2 teams at 28, 2 teams at 29, and the Little Flyers there at 26, which kind of reminds me of last year. Because last year the Little Flyers were behind in game count for a while as well, but they were, I believe, Anthony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they were in, I want to say, second or third place at the time. And to that point that I brought up earlier about the Seahawks, the 87s were in front of them, and the Little Flyers just gradually crept up and eventually caught and surpassed them. And there was nothing the 87s could do because the Little Flyers just had that many games left.
yeah.
I think they finished tied in points technically, but the Little Flyers had the tiebreaker, correct?
Yeah, because the Little Flyers have won the season series against the 87s. That was actually the first time the Little Flyers had won a season series against the 87s. And it certainly came in handy because that was the year that they tied it up. I mean, looking right now, the 87s are certainly in a good spot. They're up 3 points on the Ducks. They have 1 game in hand. I feel like it was 3 right before the showcase. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I remember the Little Flyers went on a massive win streak in the second half last year. So maybe they're like the Wizards of the South. But also they have 4 of our league records as far as season win totals. So they're either barnstormers and win almost 40 games a year, or they kind of middle, and then they're like, all right, let's step it into high gear and let's wake up, boys, and let's make a run. So I would not be
Philly
shocked
has
to
to go. I think they had to go through some growing pains that first half of the season. They lost virtually every key contributor on offense from last season's team. Had a couple guys leave to join Team Maryland as well. Tyler Hissong and TJ Avellino. Those are kind of pieces. Those are 2 big pieces for them last year. You lose Kyle Patton, Sava Smirnov. Like, those are guys that put the puck in the back of the net, racked up a lot of points. Different look this year for the Little Flyers, but I thought in that Newington showcase, they looked good. I mean, they came out, they took it to the Wolves. And I think we've seen it in the past, guys, where teams have used a showcase or a showcase performance to kind of springboard themselves into a winning streak or into a better stretch of play. It's kind of funny how those showcases can swing confidence in both directions because it's such a short span and you're only playing 2 or 3 games. But if you play well and get good results, can kind of help things going forward when you resume regular schedule play.
Yeah, maybe someone like a Johnny Lee could step up in the second half. Johnny Dangerously, as he was once coined. They used to run things in the EHL Premier. Like you said, Ty, I mean, they got some young O3s that have struggled development-wise. But, hey, you got the first half of the season in now. Now it's time to kick it into another year. You're not exactly a veteran yet, but, I mean, you've played 20-plus games now in the EHL, so now it's time to to get out on the ice and put what you're doing in practice and in the video rooms to good use. And hopefully they rested up and they're going to improve in the second half. They need some guys to step up for sure offensively.
They're young, and I think that it's just going to be a matter of continuously learning for them. They're currently last place in their division, but when you look at the two teams that are ahead of them right now, in Philly Hockey Club and Team Maryland, they're all kind of bunched up together. They're all right around that 500 mark. And so who's to say that the Little Flyers couldn't leap up from 5-3, right? I mean, it's not that drastic when you look at it. And I think those three teams at the bottom of the South are more closer to each other than they are to, say, ProTech or the 87s. I think the Ducks and the 87s are really going to find themselves scrapping down the stretch for that top seed. I really do. I just can't see Maryland or the two Philly clubs making up that ground. I mean, I could be wrong. Hey, bulletin board material right there. Tack it on. Go for it. But I just see that division coming down to the Ducks and the 87s.
I agree.
Philadelphia Hockey Club.
Oh, no, go ahead, Anthony. I was just going to say, make us eat our words. That's all.
Anthony is the South Division man, after all.
I was going to say, Philadelphia Hockey Club is an interesting team to look at. Also, a quick shout out to Doug Shea, one of the assistant coaches for Philly Hockey Club. Avid listener of the podcast, listens to every episode. Got to talk to him before the first game between the 87s and Philly Hockey Club at Jersey Shore. And when this podcast comes out, I'll probably be calling that game.
True, but, and talking to him.
Yep. They have the highest goal differential. They actually have plus 16 over the 87s plus 15. Philadelphia Hockey Club is also the only team in the division that scored more than 80 goals. The next highest is the Ducks at 77. So they're the best offensive team in the South Division, but they're in third place.
Yeah.
And it's not like they've given up that many goals either. 90 goals for, 74 goals against.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess like they've just lost big in the games that they have lost.
The results,
and they had a tough showcase. They got swept in Newington, but
yeah.
I think they're probably one of the teams that's happy to have that holiday break when it happened. And tomorrow they're going to be playing against the 87s, and it'll be a good indicator to see how the second half can go.
And they were missing Ethan Byrne those last couple games. Hey, Jigs.
Yeah. Hey.
Look at us.
Also, Doug Shea wanted me to say this, as well as Jeff Perot on the podcast. They do believe that Nolan Wutzke is probably one of the best 200-foot players in the game. And when I watched them play that first time they visited Jersey Shore Arena not long before the showcase, it felt like every time he was on the ice, Wutzke sort of controlled the tempo of the game. So I can actually see where he's coming from with that. And I think you talk about Ethan Byrne coming back into the lineup. I think Wutzke is also going to be a very pivotal player to see which or how the second half is going to go for them.
And if they put him on forward or D, because he has played both too.
Right. Yep.
So, but to Anthony's earlier point where he called it the North Division, I look quickly at the games that we have coming up, like in this first week back. 87s Philly Hockey Club, Maryland Little Flyers, Ducks 87s. Anthony's kind of right here. Little Flyers, Philly Hockey Club. There's a lot of South on South matchups here. So, but like I said,
division crime. Here we go.
There are some North Division matchups coming. Finally.
Eventually.
Flipping over now to the EHLP, which I think with our picks from this past week, it was fun because when you take a step back and Jeff, you can speak to this. You were the only one that didn't pick the Railers, right? So you felt some love from John Feinlease.
John Feinlease ripped right into my Instagram inbox. Like, okay, all right, Jefferson, here we go. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I actually didn't even really notice until he chirped me that I was the only one that did not pick the Railers P. And I think I explained it on our picks. I'm just interested to see. We talked about Jack Lee left and went to Nichols, right? Congrats to Jack. We're going to miss him. So are the Railers EHL team. So I don't know. I mean, pun intended, they're a train, right? They're loaded. They're deep. But maybe some of those Premier guys, maybe it takes more than just one guy from Premier to move up and help out for the loss of Jack Lee. So that could really We've talked about that a lot this year. There's a lot of team. When Jack Lee came in, he was just one player. He made a huge difference to the way that Coach Bertoni was able to mix and match his lines. So taking him out, now you got to add someone back in. It may not be someone from the Premier. They may just keep the Premier as is and go get someone from another organization that's not even in the EHL yet. I'm not sure, but I don't know. We'll see. Like Tyler said, all more material. Sorry, John Finelease. Love you, man. See you next year.
And we're starting there in the Boston division. There's 3 teams that have played 27 games so far. The Express have played 28. It's crazy. The Rangers P have only played 23 games. So it's like we almost like forget about them because they've played the fewest number of games. When you look at these standings, I know Jeff loves, you can spend so much time staring at these pages. Did you notice your favorite column on this page in the East, Jeff? Valley Junior Warriors, PIMS, 505.
Ooh, and by East you mean Boston Division, right?
Sorry, but oh my God, look at that! Thank you, Jeff. I just
I spent my break studying. I don't know.
Let's see, who's the next highest? It would be
Little
Philly.
Flyers?
It'd be the Little Flyers with 442.
But
So,
their nobody
Wow,
even
hack and whack. Brett Heigl and the Warriors.
Valley is not winning a Lady Bing. That is for
No.
sure.
well,
Brett
That's for
Higgs.
certain.
Love you.
and nobody in the EHL is even in 500 yet. And the EHL,
yet.
there's some teams that have played more games than they have at the EHLP. But I know Jeff loves the PIMS column, so I had to at least
Love 'em.
acknowledge that. If we were
Thank
a
you, sir.
league, or if we were a podcast that included PIMS as fantasy points, I think Jeff would dominate that.
I would
Oh,
run that. I would pick the Ryan Reeves of our EHL and just freaking knock you all out. That's a good. Speaking
Who's
of,
the
we don't
Ryan
condone
Reeves
fighting
of
in the EHL, but
Do we don't really have like a
Drayton Todorov was for New York Apple Corps years
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, that's
That
a
we had,
sounds
we had a
like
couple of
guy
good
who
Donnybrooks
would
in
go out there
Newington.
to-
We don't condone fighting, but I had a couple of fights that I
Drayton
had the pleasure of calling.
Todorov, Anthony.
yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Is that like the guy Rocky fought in like Rocky 4?
Tyler,
What?
next
Oh my
next off season, we will do an off the air
all
Hymns.
bruisers.
PIMS
All bruisers.
episode. So
I say we've seen
should.
some tough guys the
Yes.
last 10 years, Neil.
yes.
And
So-
Anthony.
but that one stuck out to me because it just 505 was right there, right in front of our face, right? So
Who is this hacker we're pulling up here?
I'm showing him the name that Anthony just brought up.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. 154 penalty minutes. a
That's
year.
impressive.
That's some work.
And then another 132 when he went to play in was that the Knot? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
From Jackson,
And then
Michigan, make your way to
113
the
in
combine,
college.
folks. First combine plug of the
Oh,
new
just
half.
13. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he had 113 in college. I was like, wait a minute.
Still
Oh my
managed 10
gosh.
points, 2 goals, 8 assists.
Hey, I mean, his stats weren't for a guy who seems like he spends so much of his time in the penalty box. He puts up pretty decent rate of points, I guess.
Wasn't exactly John Scott with a goal every like 10 years, but fight
he's
every
a great
2 minutes, a
league,
goal
too.
were
every
you
10 years.
making a comment about the ads on elite prospects there, Jeff? The ads are
Oh, and how much they
ridiculous.
suck.
Oh, it sucks. It's ridiculous. Slows your
One of the,
computer
it's one
right
of
then.
the it's such a good website for information and like prep and all that, but it is just like impossible to use it. Oh my god, it's such.
We
a
still love you, EP,
frustrating-
if you're listening, but come on, help us out.
I mean, love you, EP. Like I use you guys a lot for my prep and all that good stuff. But man,
Same.
oof,
Can we get a little less ads in the new year?
yeah, like just a teeny bit less.
So
Like, sure, why don't you give us some of your money, guys?
shifting up to the New England division from the Boston, you have a Lumberjacks team that says, I see the Rangers 23 total games played, I raise you 22. So they have a busy second half with 20 games on their schedule. 24 for the Wolves, 27 for the Avalanche. I mean, they ripped off 4 games in 5 days right before the holiday break. 25 each for the Chiefs and Thunder. I guess my thing with this is not to count the Chiefs out, but obviously they're 7 points back of the nearest team. Just that 1 through 4 battle is going to be so entertaining.
Separated
it's-
by 1 point.
Like
Just
that's
like
insane.
the EHL. It's just like the North in the EHL. I mean, how about
How about
Vermont?
this
though?
expansion Adirondack Thunder, too? Or Vermont, we'll start with them first.
17 wins for Vermont in their first 22 games played. They've scored 91 goals. I was really impressed with them last year. And especially once they did get to Providence, I really got to see them play in some real tight spots and against some of the best teams in the EHLP. Their semifinal game against the Avalanche, honestly, I sometimes view it as almost better than the championship game against the Rangers. That was a really, really close game. And they had some close battles against the Avalanche last year. So to see them kind of take that next step, and you got to remember, they've had a lot of guys get promoted. Hayden Bullock, Trent King, Nolan Matthews, all those guys have bumped up.
Even
now.
their head coach got promoted.
Even their head coach got bumped up as well. Seth Gustin had tremendous success last year. He's doing great with the EHL club this year. So that's honestly why I myself picked Vermont to come out of the New England division, because I just think from what I see last year and what they've been able to build into this year, it just looks like it could be the Lumbies year for sure. They just have it going right now. 17 wins in 22 tries. I mean, it's like the Bruins almost 29 wins in 38 games, 39 games. Like, shoot.
Spotless regulation in 2022. No big deal, boys.
And obviously it's a new year now, and things can change. I mean, you look at, like you said, Neil, 1 through 4, there's 1 point separating them all. So, I mean, who's to say that they don't get overtaken, right? You can't rule out the Wolves, Avalanche, or the Thunder, who honestly I've been really impressed with this year.
Well, Tyler, look at the matchup that's going to happen the first weekend for the EHLP. 2 games between the Adirondack Junior Thunder and the New Hampshire Avalanche. That's going to have huge implications coming right out of the break.
And the Thunder have given the Avalanche some real fits this year. I've called some bonkers games between those two teams where they just love to put the puck in the net against each other. Like nothing in terms of a lead is safe when the Avalanche and Thunder play together. I'm pretty sure one of their games was 7-6 in overtime.
High score.
Well, Adirondack likes to play in overtime. We're probably going to see a pair of 3-point games.
They do love their OTs and their shootouts. That's
as Tyler said, 5-4 Avs, 7-5 Adirondack, 7-6 Avs. Those are your 3 meetings this year.
Yeah, I call that's the one I called 7-6.
Wow. 13 goals. That's a work day.
I'm trying to remember. But it just goes to show you, like, whenever those two teams meet up with each other, goals just go in, and it's just goals. So I think it'll be fun between those 4 teams. And you kind of mentioned it, Neil, with the Chiefs. I mean, we don't want to count them out, but they've got 16 points. The Thunder, who are in 4th place, have 33. Yeah. I mean, it
works.
It's a wide river to cross, is what I'm saying there for the Chiefs. That's going to be tough.
But after this weekend series with the Avalanche and Thunder, say Adirondack, you take it one game at a time, but they were to sweep that series. The Avalanche, they're at 29 games, and they're already leading the division in game count, right? Like one of those teams is going to have to play the Chiefs in that division's playing game.
Yep.
And if it stays the way it is, and then go start their next series in Vermont. That's kind of a tough battle to fight.
Ideal.
Not fun.
No.
I definitely want to avoid that playing game at all costs. That's for sure. If I'm Adirondack, New Hampshire, the Wolves, Vermont, you want to make sure that you're anywhere but that 4th seed come the end. It's really going to be a fight for 1 through 3. And because if you can avoid having to play that extra game, by all means, especially if you're going to have to go play, say, a team like the Lumberjacks or even the Avalanche, if they get into the 1st seed, going to the Ice Den, that's not a pleasant place to play come postseason.
Some nice pressure for new head coach McCauley for the Avs premiere.
Yeah.
Enjoy the Adirondack Junior Thunder. Coach Krakowski, I'm sure, will be licking his chops.
So, and then we'll wrap things up in the Mid-Atlantic, which
Anthony's favorite division.
Smile dawns on his handsome face.
He's just trying to make 87's Huntsman the best rivalry in the history of the EHL and EHLP combined.
What?
Yeah, it's brewing behind the scenes. That's all I keep hearing. Is that it's brewing behind the scenes.
I'm catching strays here, Neil. What gives?
Just that you have made comments about how
Connor Bedard,
they're very tough matchups every single time. And what did you say last time? The road team has won every game so far in this series?
Yes. The road team has won all 4 matchups, 3 at Jersey Shore, 1 in Pennsylvania.
So you said the 87s just signed Connor Bedard, didn't you?
Wait, what?
I remember Connor Bedard's name circulating in the groupie chat.
Do the Huntsmen currently have the season series edge right now on the 87s, 3-1, or
Yeah.
Yes. But to that point, that
Ryan
the road team,
Rendies.
the road team has won every game. Maybe this is a
Yeah.
battle to be the 2 seed, not to be the 1 seed. So, Jeff, if you
Yeah,
want to
that's
talk
crazy.
about Connor Bedard in the EHLP for a second, if that ever would have happened, he probably
how
would
many
be
points would he put up? Let's see.
600
in a game.
In a game. Shot score.
Well,
Shot score.
that Slovakian kid, the goalie, he's on the Chippewa Steel, right? That's in the NA. So I mean, I couldn't imagine, like, could I? I'm trying to put like Jack Boschert playing in that game. Like, I'm gonna ask Jack on Saturday. Hey, Jack, like, if Connor Bedard came
Latvia has
in on
had
you in
quite a
overtime,
few
how would you
null
fare?
guys the
Like-
past couple of years. I remember my first year working for the Titans back in 2016. There were a lot of guys that went to Team Latvia for World Juniors, and a lot of guys in that East Division. Vito Janssens from the Rebels, Merritt Mittens also from the Rebels, Phillips Buncis from
Merritt
the
Mittens.
Johnstown Tomahawks. Yeah, Mittens played some games in the American Hockey League last season with
Love that name.
the Utica Comets.
That's a
Same
great
with
hockey game.
Brandon Bussey. You know, we met him
Oh yeah,
during
Yeah.
the
Bruins
legend.
frozen finals last season. Yeah, he's
leading
with
the AHL in save percentage right now.
yes.
Him.
Big boy.
I think my resolution for the new year is to be able to rattle off names the way Anthony can, because he
Right.
just threw out some names and I'm like, what? Like,
Merritt's
It's like an
Mittens, everybody.
encyclopedia.
like,
It really is.
pretty crazy, right?
Go on, EP. No, just channel into Anthony Paolo's
Yeah,
brain.
no,
He's
Yeah,
got
no,
you
we don't
covered.
need elite prospects anymore. We have Anthony.
Exactly.
We have Anthony.
It's a new channel on your Fubo YouTube TV lineups. Anthony Apollo. Click in.
And now we'll go to the fantasy channel with the eCrew Fantasy Challenge.
It's time for the eCrew Fantasy Challenge.
The eCrew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
Jeff, you want to get your calculator out?
Yeah. Hold please. There we go. All right. Ready, Kamish?
573.2
Mm-hmm.
minus 416.2.
Welcome to the 400 Club, boys. That would be a grand total of 157.
Okay, so now
That's our lead.
157 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
57 divided by 8. 19.625.
All right, so if you guys gain 20 points on us per week, the rest of the way, we got ourselves a ball game come postseason.
Yeah.
It's not that unrealistic. It's still a ball
That's
game right
not that
now.
bad.
But
we have a whole second half now to work with. So
You know, it's also tough too when Team HNIB doesn't have its own hockey ops department or analytics department like Team OG does. You know, we're a little short-staffed
just
over
don't have the
here.
resources.
I say even though Team HNIB has 4 members as opposed to Team OG and they're 2 members.
it's all
We're
about
We
low
old.
cash.
We old, but our brains are sharp, baby.
But Team HNIB, let's hear your picks for the first week back.
Excellent. So leading off for Team HNIB, going with someone who's a bit of an old reliable, but it's a forward from the Connecticut Rough Riders. We're going with Dallas D'Amato.
Ooh.
Another familiar face at forward for us. We're hoping for a big weekend from him, even if it's against my Express. Louis Joseph Guernon from the Lumberjacks just seems to always pick up at least a point or two. So hoping for that.
LJG.
Also hoping for an Express win, low key.
Sorry, Seth.
Connor Roach from the East Coast Wizards will round out our forward group. We really like our forward group.
He had a pretty good showcase in Newington, right?
Did.
Connor Roach.
Picked up a goal in the game that I called, if I'm not mistaken. But that rounds out our forwards. Connor Roach from the Wizards. Moving on to D, we've got Carter Rugg from the Seahawks Hockey Club. He's picked up a few goals over his last couple games. Likes to use that wrist shot from the point. Also gets some power play time too. I think I saw him against the Express. Jack Foote is our EHLP pick from the 87s. That'll round out the blue line. And then in goal, we're going back up north to the Lumberjacks, and we're going with William Billiquay, who's had himself an excellent season for Vermont. going to be interesting to see how he fares going one-on-one with Jack Boschert on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Jeff, you want to take
Want me to
ours?
rattle them off? I will happily do so. All right, let's start. Let's keep things symmetrical. We'll start forwards. We'll go with Cooper Smith, getting a new splash in there. Saw him during the showcase. Had 2 goals in the last game versus the Vermont Lumberjacks. Also had 2 goals versus Team Maryland on the 9th. So 4 goals in the last 3 games. Yep, we're doing quick math. That continues. That's a good theme here on the new year, new episode. Brett Beal is going to be our other forward from the Boston Junior Rangers. He's got 19 points in 24 games, has been just a shade under a point per game player for Coach DiCaprio. 2 goals and an assist in his last 5 games. So hopefully he can keep that streak going. Then we're going to go to the PA Huntsman. Sorry, Anthony DiPaolo. We're going to go with Benjamin Watson, not former tight end of the New England Patriots, but PA Huntsman forward Benjamin Watson.
What a reference.
Right? 25 points in 18 games for Ben Watson. Huge special teams guy. 4 power play goals, a shorthanded goal, 5 short. Is that 5 SH?
I think that's supposed to be shots, but
I think you're right, Neil.
Sorry. Yeah, SHG, shorthanded goals. So let's refamiliarize ourselves with the EasternHockeyLeague.org website. Then we're going to go to D. We're doing another P pick. Grant Curtis from the New Hampshire Avalanche. Yes, me and Neil are going with 2 P guys this week. Maybe flexing our muscles a little bit with our 157-point lead.
Wait, you can do that?
yeah.
You can do a whole lineup of P guys if you want. I mean,
Wow.
You just have to have at least
Maybe
one
that's what we've been
from
doing
the
wrong this
other
whole
division.
time. We've been trusting these EHL guys too much. We might have to shoot.
may have just found you guys a new little strategy to get that 19.6
Every week.
point.
Ryan Arendes.
But Curtis has
That's
16 points.
that's how we get back into this.
And-
That's how we get
until he
back
plays
into
the 87s. Go on.
But Curtis has a point in. He must be on our streaks page. Yeah, he's looking for 4 straight. Go check out our new streaks page. It's not so new anymore, but it's still beautiful. Very few pointless games for Grant Curtis as a D-man on the back end. New coach McCauley will love Grant Curtis, and we hope he continues to pour things in for the Avalanche. Staying with the Avalanche on D, Andrew Wall is in from the EHL team. We're going to have him join us this week for Team OG. He's also on a 3-game point streak. So look at that. We get 2 Avs defensemen, 1 P, 1 E, both entering the new year on point streaks. So let's go. Wall is in. And then Alexander Rolfe, who's freshly back to the Seahawks, came back before the break, played against the Spartans and Spartans. There we go. SHC. That's right. So he got 2 games in before he came back. He had a hand injury, was out for quite some time, but maybe him and Androlovitz. That's the new
Androlovitz.
Yeah. Maybe split more time. So Coach Sander, if you can maybe get him a game this week. I know you guys got 2. Equal opportunity, right? Give Rolfe 1, give Androlovitz 1, and we'll be happy. Those are our picks, boys.
So I just put in the chat IAWT. So when it comes to pronunciations and Anthony, we trust. So there you go, Jeff, for that last one. Great Ben Watson reference too, by the way. It made me think back to there used to be a player for the Express EHL team in the 2020-21 seasons. I don't think, Tyler, you were calling those games yet, but it was a forward named Matt Ryan. So if Matt Ryan passed the puck to Ben Watson, boom, my head would explode.
He went to Stonehill, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I called one game for that Express team, and it was their regular. That was the game Clay Buckholz gave the puck away. I showed you guys that clip.
Eric, don't call me Clay Buckholz. That's right.
Yeah, that was the first Express game I ever called. Was that
Anthony? Have you ever heard that call?
You'll pick him at fantasy
Tyler?
all the time.
There was a play where Eric Buckholz, goaltender for the Express, passed it to the other team, and Tyler came unglued on the air. What are you doing?
He literally had all the time in the world to make several plays. He was standing with the puck behind the net, looked, and just passed a tape-to-tape puck to it was Andrew Stafora of the Wizards, and he
Stafora, I remember him.
And he was a good player. He did not need an empty net like that to score. It was definitely the easiest goal he ever got in the EHL. I'm still
he was no Todorov or whatever the Pims.
Oh my gosh,
Tyler, I can only imagine what your reaction would have been when Mackenzie Blackwood for the Devils
Oh,
had that
God,
little
my heart-
mishap, that little boo-boo against
heart
the
aches,
Carolina Hurricanes, giving Sebastian Aho a wide open net to shoot at.
honestly, in terms of the goalie blunders that I've seen this year, whether it's EHL or NHL, whatever, pro hockey, junior hockey, without a doubt, one of the worst was Cam Wickens and Hookset. I mean, oh my God, like I had never seen a goalie get beaten like that. My heart dropped. I don't think
I was
I'll
a
see
former
goal
goalie for all of you that
worse,
don't know at home.
Yes.
honestly, this
For
year.
the experience.
Yeah, it's different, I guess. Like, because I
That
put
was tough.
myself in that spot. Like, I remember giving up a goal from the neutral zone, and like I wanted to skate off the ice and like never be seen again. So it's terrible. It's terrible.
Actually, Tyler, a
It
quick little
hurts.
digression. Did you ever do the same thing that Tim Thomas used to do? I remember distinctly
Oh God.
Alexander Semin scored from the red line on Tim Thomas, and like the puck had
like
barely
just sprint
crossed
off
the line,
ice.
and Tim Thomas
Yeah.
just sprinted off. It almost looked like he sprinted before the shot even came in.
He was a butcher
He
when he
just wasted
tried to play the puck.
No
Oh, my
time
God.
whatsoever.
I gave up. I can remember giving up 3 goals in my career from like center ice, and one of them was really funny because we were playing in a tournament, and we were beating this really bad team like 9-0. I probably had like 2 shots faced the whole game. They just wire one in from center, like it just went over. Like I just missed it. I was like, oh, that went in.
You guys haven't shot a puck at me in 10 minutes.
It was
What the hell?
it
Where
was
did this come from?
9-1. We ended up winning 9-1, and I remember like the other team that was watching, just like ripping into me. Like I was like, they gave me so much crap for it, and turned out that goal ended up helping us out in the goal differential department. So we got a better matchup the next round. And as a result, like we ended up winning that game. We went to the championship. We lost the championship, but that goal from center ice ended up like helping our differential, which helped out in the standings somehow. And, yeah, it was pretty funny how that worked out, but it sucks when you do get cooked like that. So hopefully in 2023, there's my New Year's resolution. If you're a goaltender, just tend the goal.
Play it cleanly.
Okay, Steve Dangle.
Just tend the goal.
Take
guys,
your
in
time.
2023, please.
Right.
So I don't have to feel hurt on your behalf, because it sucks. Oh, actually, Jeff, that's what I was thinking of. That Kings game I called for you. Is it Boyd?
Mm-hmm.
What's his first name? The goalie, Boyd.
Aiden
Boyd played a great game, but he served the winner up to the Bandits right on a T8. Came out behind the net, just got way too cute with it, and oh yeah, I was just like,
It's happening everywhere.
I was wincing for him. I really was.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to what to watch for Anthony, JATFP.
Just ask the freaking players.
Ah,
That's how I get the pronunciations.
Oh my God.
I just ask the players.
That's true.
Okay.
See, because I do rely on Anthony. At least Anthony, once a showcase, will come up to me and be like, "Hey Tyler, just want to let you know, like it's this and not this." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks,
I mean,
Anthony."
I get it. I get it with
I love it.
showcases because you're calling game after game after game. You might not have time to go up to the players and ask them, but
But on a
before
regular
every
day.
game I do at Jersey
Yeah.
Shore Arena, I usually find the guys when they're doing their pregame soccer. I'll just be like, "Hey, I'm Anthony. I'm calling the game today. I want to make sure I get it right for you."
Yep.
Yep.
So
The age-old way to do it is say, "How do mom and dad?"
That's part of our jobs to get the
Yeah.
names right.
So
Yes.
we're gonna say JATFIP, JATFP, and followed by IOT, AAWT. Because if Anthony asks the players, then in Anthony we can trust. So
Right.
with that, we'll jump into what to watch for.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to watch for is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2022-2023 season.
So I will lead off because I also got some crap for my picks this past week because I was the only one of the 6 of us that picked the Chiefs to win the Central Division. So, Chiefs,
Hey.
Railers, Wednesday the 11th at 12:30.
Be there, be square.
First chance to show that I was like somewhat right. Roll Chiefs. Who's
Hey,
next?
we're stirring the pot. This is our job, everybody. All right, we're trying to, it's we're just trying to stir the pot.
Who's
Leave
next?
Commissioner alone. Leave us all alone. Just kidding.
Leave us all alone.
I'm gonna go Spartans Avs. First time we've seen them this year in the EHL. So let's see what you got. North Division, time to separate yourselves and those two teams are going to see each other a whole heck of a lot. Excited to get to the rinks at Exeter for our final league showcase. Not this coming up weekend, but the weekend after that. Yeah, let's see what Sparty Party versus Roll Abs Roll has got in store.
For me, I'm looking forward to our final showcase as a whole. I know it's a bit cliche, but I'll lead off with that because our showcases are always they're always great events, and the teams always tend to bring it. And I feel like since it's our last one, I'm really looking forward to see. Could be, the last chance. Certain teams will see each other in the regular season. So I know the Express play the Ducks in that showcase, and that's a matchup I'm looking forward to seeing. But in terms of like this coming week, it's their next game against the Lumberjacks. They're on a season high winning streak, and they're going to play a really good team. So curious to see how they come out of the break and how they handle Vermont this Saturday.
Anthony, wrap us up.
I mean, I know I usually talk about the 87s. They have a pretty good weekend coming up with Philly Hockey Club and then Protect Junior Ducks on Friday the 6th. That's going to be a battle of the 1 and 2 teams in the South. But I guess just to reiterate what I was talking about before with New Hampshire versus Adirondack, I think that's going to be a terrific matchup over at Cool and Shuring Arena for both games. It's going to be a back-to-back that weekend. The Avalanche will be staying over there.
There'll be a lot of fans in attendance, as they always have their attendance numbers posted.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
so.
watching a few of their games on Hockey TV, seeing how it looks from that vantage point, and it's nice. I would love to go up there and check out a game over in Adirondack.
Road trip, Anthony. Let's do it.
This is going to be a busy month, though. Between the 87s games, between the showcase coming up, I think January is going to be one of my busier months.
Nice. Love that.
So I've got the jumbo bag of cough drops ready to go.
You got the menthol ones, Anthony? The Halls that we were eating last year at the Frozen Finals, left and right?
Oh,
yeah, I think so.
Cool your throat.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Try those fisherman lozenges.
As I mentioned, between now and our next podcast, we have a big announcement coming with the Ducks sale. We will also be announcing the players that will be participating in the EHLP All-Star Game, which we'll cover more of course, on the next podcast as well. I think those are the only two big stories in between podcasts. There's so much coming up, to Anthony's point, that my head's kind of becoming mush a little bit here too at the same time.
It happens. It's allowed.
But we're getting back into action. We obviously have a bunch of league games on top of the EHL versus CJEP tournaments. So and those games as well are also on Hockey TV, like all of our games. If you don't want to come in person, you can tune in right on Hockey TV, hear any of these guys calling the games, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good. See you guys then.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.